Right, so what I'm going to show you now is actually how to create separate levels. If you've looked at my previous tutorials, it's pretty much very simple to do. It's pretty much all the stuff I've already shown you, but let's go through it. Let's go through it. Okay, so how do we create another level? So right click layout, add layout, and right, again, as I said in my previous videos, does depend on what sort of way you want to do this. Now, you could have separate code for each level, or you could have it in all in one main event sheet. So rather than having level 1, level 2, you can have it all in one main event sheet. It's entirely down to you. Now, it does depend on, have you got entirely different things for every level? Okay, if you do, then have a different event sheet for each one. Okay. If you don't, which in my case I don't, I can just keep going to one main game event sheet, and all those levels can link back to that one. Okay. Now, why would you want to do separate event sheets for each level? Well, if you had separate enemies, let's say level 2, they would hit you twice as hard. You would need a separate event sheet. Okay, so to register, instead of subtracting 1 from your health, they subtract 2 from your health instead. Okay, examples like that. Okay. But in this case, I don't want to have an event sheet, another event sheet. I just want to have the layout. Let's click Add Layout, and let's call this Level 2. Okay. Now, let's drag this over here. Now, pretty much, I want exactly the same layout in really. So how do I do this? Well, if I, on the keyboard, Control A, so hold Control, click, hold on A, then Control C, go over here, Control V, click there. You do have to sort of adjust it where it is. I'll zoom out a bit. That is pretty much the game. Now, if you don't, there's another way you can do this. You don't have to do it this way, so I'll just click delete there. You could, if you wanted to, just right click on the layout, duplicate, and boom. If you got a sort of a naming scheme, it will go to the naming scheme. Now, where is my layout? Double click, up here, boom, there we go, done. It's exactly the same. If I wanted to do exactly the same layout, which in this case, I do. Now, how do I get from level 1 to level 2? Okay, fairly easy. Now, in my last video, I showed you how to do an end game. In this one, I just want to go to level 2. So instead of on collision with flag, go to end game, change that to level 2. Boom, there we go. There we go, done. Now, some of you, so some of you may be thinking, when I went to my main game, if all my code is there, how do I have the separate flag on level 2 go to the end game? Well, in this case, we need an event sheet, don't we? Okay, so let's right click, add an event sheet. Let's call this level 2 event sheet. And in this one, you don't need all of it, just need this. Okay, and instead of that, that will go to endgame. Let's see if that works. Some of you may be noticing. some of you may be realizing, why does it always go to level 2? It's not clicking. Well, it's because these are because we copy and paste, we didn't actually change the event sheet. Because we added an event sheet, we added it separately. If you recall in my previous videos, what was the thing we need to change? The actual event sheet linked to the layout. So if we go to the layout, the actual event sheet is not linked. That's why this flag was always constantly go back to level 2 again. Okay? So if you try that now. Nope. Now, maybe wondering why none of that was. Why was the score not done? Why did the score was not changing? It's because all the stuff in our main game event sheet wasn't linked to in our level 2 event sheet. Now, considering we don't want to just copy all this all over again, if we do copy a global variable, this is what happens. It creates a second one, because there cannot be a global variable with the same name, because the global variable spans across the entire project. Okay? So how do we fix this? How do you get all of this into here? Really simple. Right click the background, include event sheet. And we want to include the main game event sheet. Okay? Now, when we play our game, straight from level 2, everything stays exactly the same. Health goes down, it's game over. Let's go to our level 1. Let's try that again from this point of view. Now, before, when we went to level 2, it just reset. Nothing was working. Let's see if it works. And the health works, coin works, but the flag doesn't work. We've got a slight issue. As you see, we use the same object. Okay, now, some ways you can do this. The way I'm going to show you is if we just copy, if we just duplicate this, so we'll clone it, okay, in our project files, and if we call this our, rename this end flag, it looks exactly the same. Now, I would suggest that you have a different flag for the actual end game, so that to the user it's visually, this is the end game. Okay, which I'm actually going to do now. Actually, let's do that. Instead of, let's change that to this sort of color. Gonna be here a while, but let's change to that. Drag that drop in, delete that. Now we need to change on the collision because it's the wrong flag, end flag, and that. If we play the game, yep, it's all working fine. Hit that. Do I glide? Yeah, on level 2. Yeah, I thought I was going to die on that one. There we go. That is how you create separate levels. Obviously, I showed you some few minor bugs that I made myself. But that is how you create separate levels in Construct3.